When I was 18, then touched crystal meth, then got into recovery, I had to fight for my survival. I needed to fight for my life. It's so easy to fall into the trap, especially if you're naive. All it takes is just one mistake, and that could be it for the rest of your life. That could be your life. Just one mistake. So I suppose the problem started at home. Both of my parents have been divorced ever since I can remember, and having to spend a week at my mother's and then a week at my father's. And then they were both going through their own personal issues because of the divorce, I suppose, back then. I was too young to kind of really take much of it in. More of the problems with my mother, where she developed, or she always apparently had, alcoholism. And she'd always kind of get a bit, out there as well when she was drinking, all that sort of stuff. And, spending 1 week at my mother's, having to deal with that, where I was the youngest as well, of a sibling as well, youngest, having to cook and clean and stuff sometimes because my mum couldn't even get up, cook for my older brother. That was always difficult. And then having to deal with him abusing me too, just as a big brother, what big brothers do. So going from that and then to another family too, where my dad remarried and they had this idealistic, version of what a family should be. So going from something that was quite negative to something that was sort of positive, but I didn't really like, I didn't enjoy it.
You sure you want to?
Yeah.
This is the first one. Is that good enough for you?
Mitch as a kid, he was reasonably normal. He was a naughty child, but there was lots of naughty kids at school. I didn't see or notice anything unusual until later on, when he was approaching maybe 16 or 17. He became a little bit mischievous and to himself, so as if he was in another place. As far as being a family, Mitch was in and out of the family situation quite a bit. I had 2 failed marriages, and he grew up during that, so I imagine it would have been hard on him. It was hard on everybody. It was hard on me, hard on him, so I imagine it would have infected him some way.
Then having to go to school and then deal with that, dealing with the bullies at school, because I was different, having to be taken out of classes, to talk to psychologists and all that sort of stuff. You're seen as an outcast, because all the kids are like, why are you going out? Why are you doing that sort of stuff? And they kind of bully you through that. And that happened all throughout till, high school as well, Then the drugs came in, which was marijuana at the start, And then that's where I started to get a sense of belonging, because I never really belonged to any sort of group. Always quite hyperactive as a kid. And marijuana calmed me down a bit. And I kind of met some friends through that. Just basically dealers and stuff, you know? Someone I could hang out with. All throughout high school, I used marijuana till I was about 18, I'd say. And then from then on, there was this other drug that came onto the scene, or it's been around for a while, but just so happened to be crystal meth. And it's one of those drugs that is just so destructive. It's unlike any other drug that's out there at the moment. It just turns you into an absolute monster. It takes every good quality that you have and just replaces it with evil. And you don't see that. You don't see the destructive qualities of it. Because you feel so good when you're on it. You feel like a champion when you're on it. It doesn't matter if it takes the pain away, or if it helps you to be more social, or helps you to be somebody that you want to be. It's really not worth your life. It can be so easy for yourself to be gone the next day if you decide to start using hardcore drugs. The first time I decided to use crystal meth, it was at night time, and it was a very spur of the moment sort of thing. I was with a mate, and he sort of just brought it up because I knew that he smoked it or used it, and I was always pretty interested in using it myself. Well, at the time, yeah. He brought it up, I can remember, and then he kind of went back on that because he realized then that what he was asking, then I'm like, nah, let's go get it. Something new. It felt something new, like new experience. I knew it made people feel good of what I've heard. I was just feeling like shit at that time. So many things were falling apart around me. Like a failed relationships and what have you, and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to feel good again. And then that's what it did. It made me feel good. I can remember the first time that I had it, and it just took all away just the toxic thoughts that I was having at that moment. I think that's what started the whole addiction. The fact that it just took away bad thoughts, bad feelings, and replaced them with good feelings and good thoughts, and laughter too. I can remember one particular night, I was out here with a mate, and we'd already been up for maybe 2 days. We thought it'd be a good idea to try to sling some coke out here. Towards the end of the night, we kind of wrapped it up, started walking away. Walked down the street a bit, and we passed this Irish guy, and he seemed like he didn't have a good night. He was already drunk. Asked him how his night was,
And he immediately just went off his nut, immediately. My mate just instantly gets onto him, they just start pounding each other, like on the side of the street. They get onto the road itself, and they're just tackling each other. So I decide to grab this guy, pull him back up onto the street right here, and try and choke him out. And as I'm doing that, he's trying to punch up behind me, and I'm dodging it side to side. And I can tell that I was starting to choke him out because his punches were getting shorter and more sloppy, and they were just going slower and slower. All of a sudden, these two cops rock out of nowhere, come up right next to me while I'm holding this guy with my crackhead strength. And this cop's like, get off him, get off him. And I look up at the cop and I'm like, oh, I'm helping. Anyways, this cop just doesn't have a bar of it. Gets me and just launches me off this guy. Then a lot more other cops come. We're sitting there, a whole bunch of cops. We have to give a statement to see, tell them what happened. And I'm shitting bricks, I got coke in my pocket. Eventually they let us go because they seen that guy was at fault. But it was really nerve-wracking.
I didn't know that I was making a mistake at that point.
I felt things were up with Mitch when I first discovered some drug-powered utensils, and he was probably around the age of 18 or 19, and what I found, I knew what it was, but just being a dad, I just refused to believe what it was. So I kind of turned an eye away from it and refused to admit what it was. And it was probably a good 2 or 3 years after that when Mitch really started going off the rails, and it became more obvious that he was taking drugs, and the amount of times he was going out through the night and coming back and just staying in his room and just totally withdrawn. So he went from being a really active, popular kid at school, very popular, to a person that just happy to stay in his room, literally 24/7, and being awake that whole entire time. I used to see his light burning in 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. There are other things that I noticed with Mitchell. His eating habits were horrible, but he never ate. He wouldn't eat for 2 or 3 days straight. Then he'd sleep for a whole day. So things became more obvious down the track, that he was using horrible drugs.
And it only became a problem that one day that my past issues kind of caught up with me because I never quite dealt with them. And then I kind of dealt with the psychosis of crystal meth addiction, the being up for too long. Then one night I snapped and tried to go at my stepmother with a meat cleaver.
So I'll just take you to the street now where the event happened, where there was a lot of police on the street. It was a big event for the street. It started like any normal day, really, except I was in active addiction. It got to about maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock. My father came home and I was already coming down. An argument started to happen between me and my father. I cannot remember what over.
I don't know if he was coming down from the drugs or hadn't had them for a while. He became quite violent and the police were called. I didn't call the police, someone else called the police. It may have been a neighbour or something. They would have heard his yelling. It was a horrible, horrible situation because he actually pulled a knife on me.
But somehow I brought up my stepmother in the past. Somehow I just snapped because I felt so much pain in that moment that I just snapped. I grabbed a meat cleaver out of the kitchen bench. There was a struggle between me and my father. It was dark outside, I know that. And it was probably around maybe a 30-minute struggle between me and my father, him not letting me come out the front door. The police were rung. I wasn't made aware of this until I got out to the front window and I seen the red and blue lights flashing.
Literally turned up, there must have been about 20 policemen, hands on their side, tasers, guns drawn, the whole bit. The police actually surrounded the house, front door, back door. They just ended up coming in the house, all behind each other with guns pointed, ready to go. They saw Mitch and Mitch just gave up.
Seen the police and then I dropped it, the meat cleaver. Went outside with my hands up because I knew at that moment that I'd been doing something wrong, that I just clicked it. I knew something was wrong. So I went outside, put my hands up, seeing the whole street, not the whole street, but the street, just the road out the front of mine was filled with police cruisers. The front of the house is with police. Some of them had their tasers out. Some what looked like had their guns out. Obviously to come to a call of a domestic and a meth head, basically. I walked out to the front porch, got onto my knees, and then I just seen a whole bunch of them, probably about maybe 5 or 6 of them rushing towards me. I got on my stomach, and then all I could feel was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 police on me, all on my limbs, holding me down. There was one police officer with his knee, which was changing from the top of my head to my neck and to the base of my neck, holding my head down. I looked back up at him and I see him crouching over me with his pistol in my face. It's like staring at God, you know?
It was all, it's very upsetting for a parent to see that sort of thing. You want the best for your children, and it's heartbreaking to see your children go through this. He had mental health issues and he was suffering badly in using the drugs to self-medicate himself, which was a cocktail of disaster. Eventually, it caught up with him. He was violent with me a couple of times, and he knew it, but he couldn't control it.
I knew I had done something wrong, and I felt like dirt. I knew I wanted to change.
And then after that, they took me to the mental health ward. Even then, like through that, they was making snarky comments at me, you know, calling me a junkie and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm still a human being at the end of the day. Just before they threw me into the mental health, like the little booth that they have there, he said to me, one of the cops whispered into my ear, he says, "You know you can kill yourself in there." And I looked at him in just utter disgust, you know? Like these people were supposed to help us, you know? And then he said that, and I just walked in there. I knew, like I've already thought about killing myself at that point. Anyway, that kind of just reaffirmed it. And then maybe about 30 minutes later, a doctor walked in, mental health professional, walked in and started talking to me. And talking to me like I'm a human, like an actual human that has feelings and has a heart and has a soul, has a brain, has thoughts, has, you know, fears, beliefs, fears, dreams, and all that sort of stuff. Actually talk to me. I hadn't had that in a while. And I think it was that's when I realized that I was worth it, that I had some worth in this life. And I was in and out of, after that, you know, you work on a mental health plan and all that sort of stuff, and you eventually go into a rehab, start learning different, you know, learning different tools and everything like that to help you out of situations and keep you sober. And I've been in and out of different places, you know.
So the first time that I was admitted into rehab, just before that, I found a church that I went to pray for strength, because I have heard that through other people's success stories that God can help you and give you strength through your addictions, and you know. So I went there and I just sat there, didn't really say anything, didn't know what to say. Nobody was in there, it was just me sitting at the back of the pews, just sitting there. I sat there for almost an hour. And I think it really helped. It did. Especially just being just me. It helped a lot. Before going to the church, I felt weak. And staying there for just an hour after it, I did feel like I had the strength to go forward, to make changes within my life. The feelings that I had within the church were a mix. There was sadness, because I was there on basically my knees, praying for strength, you know, or just sitting there for strength, just for it to, you know. And I think once accepting that I was sad, I was able to be happy that there was direction, that I had direction. I don't think I wouldn't have gotten that if if I was sitting anywhere else. Do I believe in God? Yeah, I do. I've gotten this far. Somebody's looking out for me. This place brings back a lot of memories. It's around 7 years ago. The biggest thing you want to have when you come into a place like this is an open mind. Otherwise, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to take anything in. It's changed a bit, but it's still the same place. I can remember getting to about here when I first got here, and it was a bit difficult because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this or not. But all I had to do was just take that first step and just hope for the best.
He arrived with what could best be described as full of anxiety and depression.
Coming back here brings back a lot of anxiety because the amount of work that you have to do on yourself, the fact that you have to face yourself, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. Just coming back here brings back so many emotions. The ups and the downs, the roller coaster of it all. Just makes you not want to come back here.
He had difficulty in the first week, but it's not uncommon for people coming into residential rehab to have that first week as being the longest week. He had outside issues that he needed to deal with that were consuming him, but as time came along, he started to get the program. And it's wonderful to see him today and what he's been able to achieve.
Here's the group room. In here, basically, you learn about yourself and the nature of addiction. For example, just emotions, really. I could never relate to any of them. It made me feel less human that I couldn't. So I made up my own content because I was content with being here and getting help. Even on the outside, I found it hard to relate to these emotions. outside of the cotton walls, because I wasn't really interacting with many people, wasn't having much stimulus. Even then it made me feel really alone, like I never belonged to something. I needed to find something or someone.
So residential rehab isn't something that's on a person's bucket list. There's defining moments in their life that they are potentially forced to make changes, and things that they can't change themselves, they reach out for help, and residential rehab is one of those places where you come to receive help.
I knew it wasn't going to be easy though, to have to look at myself in the mirror and change my ways, to have to rebuild a support system because you have lied and you have cheated so many people, to be able to re-enter society again and be one of the normal people. It was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be hard, but I needed to do it. I had to do it. Anxiety's high here, just because of the history of the place and my history mixed together. I can remember it was probably a Monday and I had my bags all packed and I was sitting out in the car park, in the car, and I was terrified about walking in. I was terrified because I knew that the work I had to do. And I only knew of places like this through movies, and they always would put this bad spin on them, these horrible spins on them, like Nurse Ratched. So that was one reason why I didn't want to go into places like, I didn't want to go in places like this, and having to face other people too, to socialize, to speak up about your problems, be willing to speak up about your problems and your issues, and to, to admit that you are an addict. Soon enough though, when you're talking to people, you realize they're just like you. They're in here for the exact same reason. And even some of them have the same humor as you. So it just makes it so their whole experience a whole lot easier. I can remember one of my parents brought me here. I had to do 2 weeks clean and sober at my own house before I could come here, because they were trialing with ice addicts before, this is what they wanted to work on. So they made me do 2 weeks of recovery at home. So I had to count to 14 days each day, call them up every day, tell them
I was this many days clean. And then I would come in here after those 14 days. They sat me down, did an interview. They made me pee in a little cup to make sure that I hadn't used any drugs at all. And when I passed that, they took me in, they admitted me. I put my bag inside the cupboard, but I never unpacked. I never do unpack in places like this. There's always in the back of my mind that I do want to run. So it was a very anxious experience, When I walked in today, after 7 years of being away from this place, it still brings up the anxious and the sadness and the funny times as well. It brings back mixed emotions, you know, because you're sharing this experience with other people. You're sharing it with, you know, and even the educators as well. You're sharing, because some of them do also have past problems as well. So we can all relate. Everybody can relate in this place like this. In a place, you know, it helps a lot. They call it the cotton walls because there is so much understanding, and they're trying to reintroduce you back into society by giving you understanding and caring. Places like this do help in the journey because it forges a pathway for you to better yourself. It gives you light. It shows you light where you need to go. It shows you direction. When you're in like active addiction, you have none of that. You don't have a light. You don't have pathways. You have three. They say institutions, jail, and death. But you don't know that. You don't even know that back in active addiction. Did I ever have thoughts about harming myself? Of course I did. I'm an addict. I've got depression. I've got anxiety issues. I've got ADHD, you know? And I always did, even like before I used drugs. And I never thought of anything of it at all. I thought that was quite normal. I thought people did do that. You see it in movies all the time. You see it and hear it in people's stories all the time. You just think that's normal behaviour, and then you're told that it's not. Yeah. Thought about it and did. There was one time where I took a whole bunch of pills, and it wasn't self-harm, it was a suicide attempt. I took a whole bunch of pills in my medicine cabinet, and my body just rejected it, and I threw it all up. Then went to the hospital. They're like, well, it's pretty much all gone. So, yeah. Yeah, that was the only time, and that was probably at the moment when I thought, okay, something needs to happen. I need to come into a place like this. Because I kind of realized that nah, that's not normal. I've been to the hospital many times into the public system, but there were just a few times there that made me click, that made me think, okay, something really needs to be done. It took multiple times of me going to the mental health unit at the hospital for me to realize that there was a problem. But I got there in the end. Will I ever walk in these rooms again?
I hope not. And I'm sure the educators think that too, because you want to stay off the drugs. You want to better yourself. You want to keep on going. So I hope I never do come back here.
We talk about those things that are vitally important to people, and what he has today is he has relationships, sustainable relationships, and within relationships you find love. And love is the defining thing that people come through here to find. And he's been able to achieve that. He's a wonderfully wonderful example of someone who's prepared to do the hard yards and come out the other end. He's an absolute icon, and we're pleased to say that he came through Foundation House. How optimistic am I for Mitch's future? I work and I live in an environment of hope. I hope the best. Inside the doors here, there's an objective of Foundation House to introduce a man to himself in the hope that one day they become friends. I hope he becomes friends with himself.
It wasn't long after he was out of rehab. I can't remember the actual time frame now, but he did relapse. He relapsed and went back onto the drug he was on at the time.
I mean, yeah, you still get some days you wake up, the first thing you see on your phone when you wake up is, do you need? Do you want? It's not even do you want, it's do you need? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not even like I want it, but I don't need it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how much it grabs you. People don't understand the difference between need and want. They think that this is what keeps people going. Sometimes it's hard to ignore it. People tell you to block it, but sometimes these people ask you for help.
He eventually went into a place called Wandine, that's run by Wesley Mission. I thought they were very, very good there. He was a lot more relaxed there than he was at his previous rehab.
I had the pleasure of meeting Mitchell back in early April 2015. My role, I work in these consulting rooms as a nurse practitioner, as an addiction clinician. I first met Mitchell with a colleague of mine, Professor John Saunders, who's a professor of addiction medicine, and he works here with patients. And Mitchell had an initial appointment with him, and I ended up sitting in on the consult. From there, Mitchell and I built up a really good rapport, and then I ended up seeing him regularly from then on, up until him having an admission in the hospital in around about June or July 2015. When I first met Mitchell, he was very, very shy. I did feel he was very, very angry. He was clinical diagnosis, there was a methamphetamine addiction. He'd been using it for 4 years, and he had become very dependent on it in regards in how to regulate his emotions, and like I said, how to interact in those social situations. Once he and I started building up a bit of rapport, he got a bit more open and a bit more honest, and was able to understand him not wanting to be that person. He came across as someone that was fairly confident, a little bit dismissal, didn't really care too much, kind of was a little bit almost rebellious and teenager. When we started getting into it, this vulnerability came out where, you know, he didn't really know who he was and he didn't know how to fit in, and he wanted so badly to feel included. And he said that often he would be in social situations and he would get bored or lose track of what was being said because his mind was just racing so much. For me, I discussed with him the possibility of an underlying diagnosis of potentially ADD or ADHD because of he was very, very reactive. He really struggled with, you know, withholding and absorbing information. He struggled in social situations, like I said, where there was a lot going on. He wasn't able to really focus. And he did say the methamphetamine just slowed him down so that he could focus and communicate more effectively. During that time, we built up a really good rapport, and we worked through a lot of Mitchell's I don't want to say issues, but things that he felt kept him kind of held back. And so he started to really focus on the things that he could do and how he could get well, and the things that he could really put his energy into that would support him. Part of that was the admission to Wesley. Other things that we spoke about was him learning how to advocate for himself, him learning how to take care of him having emotional disruptions. One of the things that I did tell him to do early on was to get into the gym and maybe try some boxing, because he did have some anger issues. He did find that when he was getting frustrated or upset or, hurt, he would go straight to anger. So he would go from 0 to rage very, very quickly.
After about 6 weeks, he was released from Wandine, and he was a new boy. Unrecognisable. He looked healthy, didn't go near any drugs, ate properly. He was a completely different person. Mitch really struggled, but he eventually got there. He tried and tried and tried, in and out of rehab, became clean and sober, and was for probably 2 years. And during that time, they always encouraged the kids to stay away from their old influences, old friends that use and so on. Which all made sense. Like, it's only if you start hanging around with the old friends, you go back into the old habits. So he stayed away from all his friends, joined a gym. Best thing that ever happened to him.
The biggest thing that always helped me was what I'm getting into now, which is boxing. That is one of the biggest influences that, that's helped me with my sobriety, with my life and all that sort of stuff, to give me a more positive outlook towards life. And also just a sense of like a normal belonging, instead of something that's, like a drug, through drugs. Like, I actually could relate to somebody through something else other than drugs. That was another big thing, another healthy outlet. And the amount of people here that have treated me like a human being compared to, I don't know, I just get so much joy from boxing, I get so much joy from, all of this. There's no real point to going back.
The first time I came to meet Mitch was through his dad. His dad had come to me one day, and he come to the gym, and then he asked my wife if there's Losh Matthews there. She called out to me. I came out, I was taking a class, and then luckily I went out into the reception area. He says, "Oh, you don't know me, My name is Steve. I've heard a lot about you. Can you please help me with my son? He's got a bit lost, and I just want you to help me to bring him home. I said, how about you bring him to me so we can make that initial contact, and then I can take it from there, because I've had lots of other stories like which come to me. I opened the gym, especially on a Sunday. We made the initial introduction, and then I said, just showed a bit of encouragement just so he can, look to me. Then I asked him, well, how about if I wrap your hands? So I wrapped his hands a special way, made him feel good. His dad informed me that he liked to learn about boxing, and places he went to, he just wasn't happy. And then basically I said, how about you come to training, and then I'll do some, just try and get you straightened up, and we just work from there. And he agreed. Let's go. Stay focused and calm. That's it. Roll into it. Okay, let us go the doubles. Let's go. Good work, Mitchie. Come on, you can do better than that. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Dig deep. Let's go. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. And then slowly but surely we work through a training program, trying to get him fit. It wasn't easy. You can always tell that when someone like Mitchie comes to me, there's lots of difficulties. They carry a lot of burdens on their shoulders, which they want to keep to themselves. And then I wanted to sort of let him have trust in me, so that I can give him something that he already has, which is inside of him. And so after a few sessions, getting him straight, just good straight punches, getting him fit without even causing too much stress on him, because often when you push them too hard, they rebel, and then you can't get close to them. I just needed Mitch at a distance where we can relate to each other. That was good session, all right?
Yeah.
You were a bit tight at times, and I just need you to focus on being a bit calm.
He says I'm hungry.
Yeah, because it's really important that you stay calm and you stay totally relaxed. Yeah. And the reason being is that when you're in there, in the midst of confrontation, you'll be able to handle it just while being naturally calm, and you just stay focused, and everything will come together. All right? And don't give yourself too many knockouts. Hits on the chin if you do something wrong. If you do something wrong, just remember we'll make mistakes, and just keep going through. All right? Yeah. Never give up. Okay? This is really important. You've come a long way, and you just keep training hard, and things will come together. Things will fall into place. Fighting is just like a journey. We have to put all our work into it, and the results will come back to us. And then most importantly too, don't carry any heavy luggage. If you're carrying luggage on your shoulders, we need to get rid of it before you jump in the ring. Everything has to be totally balanced.
Learn to let go.
Yeah. You got to get yourself physically fit, mentally fit, and emotionally fit. Also, I guess I can see everyone like Mitch doing the things that they do, because I at one point in my life was just the same like Mitch. But when you have an upbringing like the Once Were Warriors and all that sort of stuff, brutality, and you only turn to drugs, and well, you can relate to that. And that's how I was able to relate to Mitch. And then he did open up. But I just didn't want to hear too much. I just wanted enough for him to open up so that the mending will take place. If that makes any sense. I knew that if we worked hard, that he will get better, that he will mend from his addiction. You know, I've told Mitch about him too, about the stories that I've had previously about guys coming to me and how they've changed their lives. And I was very confident that I can do that for Mitch, help him. And when he put his heart and soul into it, I put my heart and soul into it, and that enabled us to achieve the things that we needed to achieve to help him come past that addiction. Stay focused, stay calm. Here we go. Come on, box more with your feet. We need to see your feet working. Don't slow it down. That's it, good work. Come on. That's it, from your chin. And it was really satisfying one day. We was getting ready for his first fight. One of the guys, big island boy, he came to me, he said, "Loshy," he said, "I hear you got young Mitchie with you." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Bro, he's got a very inspirational story." And he said, "I too had the same story as Mitch." He said, "I've had troubles with addiction." And he says, I want to do the same as Mitch. Mitch has helped me be able to change my ways. I want to change. And then when a big island boy, he was pretty emotional too. And I knew he was speaking from his heart. And then when I said to Mitchie, I said, "Mitch, I said, whatever you're going through," I says, "others suffer the same." And I said, now we've got someone else that, thanks to you, that he's with us. You know, I think in all honesty, I think he knows that he's on top of it, and that's all that counts. You know, when you know you've been in a dark place, you know, we all have choices. Do we want to go back, or do we want to stay with the light? In terms of winning the fight against drugs, I honestly feel that yes, that will be a thing in the past. That would be a memory, and it will become a memory for him. And he would be able to give back what he's learning from, to others that's been in the same position as he is. And I have every confidence that he's going to surpass. He's going to achieve his goal first, make it happen, and then at that time I know that's when the beating of the drug addiction, I don't think he's ever going to go back there. I'm really proud of him.
If I had a chance to go back, rethinking of what's happened over the last 5 or 6 years, I probably would have dealt with things differently. I think Mitch will one day win the fight. When it'll happen, I don't know, but one day I'll know he'll find the peace he needs. He will win the fight one day, I'm sure of that. When it will be, I don't know. Mitch, if there's one thing I can say to you, mate, I know you're going to get to that place you want to get. I just know, I can feel it in my heart. When you get there, I don't know, but mate, it's going to happen one day. I know you're going to get there. Keep it up, buddy. It's tough. I'm not acting. I was like, this is tough. Like, this drug. He's going to get there one day. I know he's going to get there. It's tough on him and it's tough on his parents. It takes its toll. We're not bulletproof. Mitch's not bulletproof, either is his parents. So he'll get there one day. I know he will, 100%. One day he'll get there.
Am I going to win the fight to addiction? God damn, I hope so. I put in too much damn work. I put in way too much work to lose it now. I deserve the win.
Real men don't cry, they're just bruised. Keeping it all inside is hard to do. Real men don't cry, they're just bruised. Heaven, look at me, I'm black and blue. When the pressure's too much and your heart is under attack, do you feel it in your head? Do you think about the life you had? Should I ask someone who knows? Should I ask someone who cares? Should I ask someone who's already been held? Should I ask someone who feels deeper than I do? Should I ask you? Real men don't cry, they're just bruised. Keeping it all inside is hard.